Let me tell you something that most people don't realize until it's too late. The greatest battle you will ever fight is not with your competitors, not with your circumstances, not even with your critics. The greatest battle you will ever fight is with your own mind. Before you win in the world, you must win within yourself. Because every success begins as a thought. Every failure begins as a thought. Every excuse, every fear, every bold decision, every breakthrough. It all starts in the mind. Your mind is a battlefield, and every single day, whether you recognize it or not, there is a war going on inside you. On one side, there is vision, discipline, courage, belief. On the other side, there is doubt, fear, procrastination, insecurity. And whichever voice you feed becomes stronger. Whichever side you entertain wins. Think about it. How many dreams have been destroyed, not by lack of talent, but by overthinking? How many opportunities have been missed, not because someone wasn't capable, but because they convinced themselves they weren't ready? How many goals have been abandoned because the mind whispered, this is too hard. Maybe tomorrow, maybe you're not good enough. The battlefield isn't out there. It's in here. You can have all the resources in the world, but if your mind is weak, pressure will break you. You can have limited resources, but if your mind is strong, obstacles will build you. The difference is never just talent. It's mental toughness. Your mind will try to protect you from discomfort. It will tell you to stay safe, to stay comfortable, to avoid risk. That voice is not evil, it's natural. But if you allow comfort to control you, growth becomes impossible. The same mind that protects you can also imprison you. Mental toughness begins the moment you become aware of your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. Most people live on autopilot. They believe every thought that enters their head. If the mind says, you're tired, they stop. If it says, you can't do this, they quit. If it says, people will judge you, they shrink. But mentally tough individuals question their thoughts. They don't automatically accept them as truth. They ask, is this fear real, or is this my mind exaggerating? They ask, is this limitation factual, or is it just familiar? They understand that the mind is powerful, but it is not always right. Your thoughts are suggestions, not commands. And here's the truth. Your mind will lie to you when you step outside your comfort zone. It will tell you that you're not ready. It will remind you of your past failures. It will magnify the risk and minimize your potential. It will replay embarrassing moments. It will create worst-case scenarios that may never happen. That's what an untrained mind does. But a trained mind, a disciplined mind, that mind says, I feel fear, but I move anyway. That mind says, I may not be perfect, but I am improving. That mind says, this is uncomfortable, but discomfort is growth. The battlefield is won through repetition. Every time you silence a negative thought and replace it with action, you win a small war. Every time you show up despite doubt, you gain territory. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you strengthen your mental armor. You don't build mental toughness in one dramatic moment. You build it in the quiet decisions no one sees. Waking up when you don't feel like it. Finishing what you started. Staying focused when distractions are screaming for your attention. Controlling your reactions when emotions try to take over. Because here's another reality. The outside world will test you. People will doubt you. Plans will fail. Unexpected problems will show up. But none of those things determine your outcome. Your response does. And your response is controlled by your mind. If your mind panics, you panic. If your mind stays steady, you stay steady. That is power. When criticism comes, your mind can interpret it as proof that you're not good enough, or as feedback that makes you better. When failure happens, your mind can label you as incapable, or it can treat the failure as information. The event is neutral. The meaning you assign to it determines everything. And that's why mastering your mind is mastering your life. Because if you cannot control your thoughts, you cannot control your decisions. And if you cannot control your decisions, you cannot control your direction. Mental toughness is not about being emotionless. It's not about pretending you're never afraid. It's about feeling everything but choosing your response wisely. It's about understanding that fear is temporary, but regret can last forever. It's about realizing that your mind will always try to negotiate with difficulty and deciding that your goals are not negotiable. The strongest people you admire, they are not fearless, they are not doubt-free, they simply refuse to let doubt make their decisions. They have trained their minds like athletes train their bodies. Just like muscles grow through resistance, mental strength grows through challenge. Every obstacle you face is mental training. Every setback is conditioning. Every uncomfortable situation is practice. But only if you face it. If you avoid every difficult situation, your mind becomes fragile. If you confront difficulty consistently, your mind becomes resilient. Pressure doesn't create character, it reveals it. And if you repeatedly choose courage under pressure, courage becomes your identity. Understand this clearly. You cannot live a powerful life with a powerless mindset. If you constantly think you're behind, you'll act from insecurity. If you constantly think others are better, you'll shrink yourself. If you constantly replay past mistakes, you'll hesitate in the present. Your mind shapes your posture, your tone, your confidence, your energy. When the internal conversation and your external performance changes automatically, that's why the first victory of mental toughness is awareness. Start listening to how you speak to yourself. Notice when you exaggerate problems. Notice when you assume failure before trying. Notice when you predict rejection without evidence. Awareness gives you the opportunity to interrupt negativity before it becomes identity. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. And once you realize that, everything shifts. Now you can choose which thoughts deserve your attention. Now you can feed courage instead of fear. Now you can decide that discipline speaks louder than doubt. Your life will always move in the direction of your strongest thoughts. If those thoughts are powerful, focused, and resilient, your life will reflect that. If those thoughts are weak, scattered, and fearful, your results will mirror that too. So guard your mind. Train it, challenge it, strengthen it. Because long before the world sees your success, you must defeat the enemy within. And once you conquer that battlefield, nothing outside of you can truly stop you. Win in your mind first, and the world will eventually follow. Let's talk about something that separates the average from the exceptional. The dreamers from the achievers. The people who talk about goals and the people who actually reach them. It comes down to one powerful principle: discipline over feelings. Feelings are unreliable. They change with the weather. They shift with your mood. They rise and fall depending on how much sleep you got, what someone said to you, how comfortable you feel, or how difficult the task looks in the moment. If you build your life around how you feel, your results will always be inconsistent. Some days you'll feel motivated. Some days you won't. Some mornings you'll wake up energized. Other mornings you'll feel tired before the day even begins. Some days you'll feel confident. Other days doubt will whisper louder than belief. If your actions depend on your emotions, your progress will stop every time your feelings dip. That's why mental toughness demands discipline over feelings. Discipline is not loud. It's not emotional. It doesn't need hype. Discipline is quiet commitment. It's doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. It's choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. It's honoring your goals even when your emotions try to negotiate with you. Your feelings will say, you deserve a break. Your discipline will say, finish the work first. Your feelings will say, it's too hard today. Your discipline will say, hard days are what make you stronger. Your feelings will say, start tomorrow. Your discipline will say, start now. And here's the truth. Most people avoid. Success is built on the days you don't feel like it. Anyone can work hard when they're inspired. Anyone can stay focused when everything is going well. Anyone can push forward when the energy is high and the motivation is fresh. But what about the boring days, the stressful days, the frustrating days, the days when progress feels slow and results are invisible? That's where mental toughness shows up. If you only work when you feel motivated, you'll only move forward occasionally. But if you work regardless of your mood, you create unstoppable momentum. Discipline turns action into habit. Habit turns effort into identity. And identity shapes destiny. Understand this clearly. Your feelings are temporary, but your decisions are permanent. One decision made in a moment of weakness can delay your progress for months. One decision made in a moment of strength can change your entire direction. That's why you cannot allow temporary emotions to control permanent outcomes. Mental toughness means separating how you feel from what you must do. You may feel tired, but you can still be disciplined. You may feel discouraged, but you can still take action. You may feel afraid, but you can still move forward. Your feelings do not have to dictate your behavior. Think about athletes. They don't skip training because they're not feeling it. They don't cancel practice because it's uncomfortable. They understand that performance is built through repetition, not emotion. The same applies to your goals, your business, your studies, your personal growth. Excellence is not emotional. It is systematic. When you rely on discipline, you remove negotiation from your mind. You don't wake up asking, do I feel like doing this today? You wake up knowing it's already decided. That decision was made when you committed to your goal. And that's powerful, because the mind loves to negotiate with discomfort. The moment something feels hard, your brain looks for escape. It suggests scrolling instead of studying, resting instead of training, complaining instead of improving. That's the natural response of an untrained mind. But discipline interrupts that pattern. Discipline says, I made a promise to myself. Discipline says, my future matters more than this moment. Discipline says, comfort is earned, not given. The problem is, many people chase motivation instead of building discipline. They wait for the perfect mood, the perfect playlist, the perfect environment. They think they need to feel inspired before they act. But action creates motivation, not the other way around. When you start moving, energy follows. When you start working, focus sharpens. When you take the first step, momentum builds. But you must move first, even when you don't feel ready. And here's something deeper. Every time you choose discipline over feelings, you build self-respect. Self-respect doesn't come from talking about goals. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. When you say you'll wake up early and you do it, you strengthen trust within yourself. When you say you'll finish the task and you complete it, you reinforce your identity as someone reliable. But when you constantly give in to feelings, you weaken that trust. You teach your mind that your words don't mean much, and over time that damages confidence. Confidence isn't built by positive thinking alone. It's built by disciplined action repeated consistently. Feelings are unstable. Discipline is stable. On the days you feel strong, discipline keeps you focused. On the days you feel weak, discipline keeps you moving. It becomes your anchor when emotions fluctuate. And let's be honest, life will not adjust to your feelings. Deadlines won't move because you're tired. Opportunities won't wait because you're unsure. Competition won't slow down because you're unmotivated. The world rewards consistency, not mood swings. If you want to master your mind and your life, you must train yourself to act independent of emotion. This doesn't mean ignoring your health or pushing yourself into burnout. It means recognizing the difference between genuine rest and emotional avoidance. It means understanding that growth requires discomfort, and discomfort rarely feels good in the moment. Discipline is choosing the gym when the bed feels warmer. Discipline is studying when distractions are louder. Discipline is saving money when spending feels easier. Discipline is staying focused when quitting feels tempting. And the beautiful thing about discipline, it compounds. One disciplined day might not change your life. One disciplined week builds momentum. One disciplined month builds visible progress. One disciplined year transforms your identity. Over time, what once felt hard becomes automatic. What once required force becomes routine. The very actions you struggled with become part of who you are. That's mental toughness in motion. When feelings no longer control your actions, you become dangerous in the best way possible. You become reliable, focused, unshakable. You don't collapse under pressure because you've trained yourself to operate beyond emotion. And here's the secret: feelings eventually align with disciplined behavior. At first, you act without feeling motivated. But as progress becomes visible, pride replaces resistance. Confidence replaces doubt. Strength replaces hesitation. The discipline that once felt heavy becomes empowering. You stop saying, "I have to." You start saying, "I get to." But that transformation only happens if you push through the phase where feelings are against you. So the next time you don't feel like working, remind yourself that feelings are temporary visitors. They come and go. But the person you are becoming is built through consistent action. You don't need to feel perfect. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel inspired. You just need to be disciplined. Because when discipline becomes stronger than your feelings, your future becomes stronger than your excuses. Choose discipline, even when you don't feel like it. Let's be honest. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they avoid discomfort. They avoid the hard conversation. They avoid the extra hour of practice. They avoid the risk of looking foolish. They avoid the struggle phase where growth actually happens. And without realizing it, they choose comfort over expansion again and again until comfort becomes a cage. If you truly want mental toughness, you must learn to embrace discomfort daily. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your training ground. It is the signal that you are stretching beyond who you used to be. Every time you feel that internal resistance, the hesitation before starting something difficult, the fear before speaking up, the tension before taking a risk, that is the doorway to growth. Your comfort zone feels safe because it is familiar, but familiar does not mean fulfilling. Familiar does not mean successful. Familiar simply means you've done it before. And if what you've done before hasn't produced the results you want, staying comfortable will only keep you stuck. Growth requires friction. Think about the gym. Muscles grow when they are placed under tension. Without resistance, there is no strength development. The same principle applies to your mind. If you avoid challenges, your mental resilience never develops. If you escape pressure, your tolerance for stress stays low. If you run from difficulty, your confidence remains fragile. Mental toughness is built by voluntarily stepping into situations that stretch you. That might mean waking up earlier than you want to. It might mean taking on responsibilities that scare you. It might mean learning a new skill where you feel like a beginner again. It might mean risking rejection. It might mean failing publicly. None of that feels good in the moment, but that's exactly why it works. Discomfort rewires your limits. When you do something hard for the first time, your mind screams. It says, "This is too much." But when you survive it, when you push through and realize you didn't break, your brain recalibrates. What once felt impossible now feels manageable. What once triggered fear now feels familiar. That's how your capacity expands. The problem is, modern life makes comfort incredibly accessible. Entertainment is instant. Distraction is constant. Convenience is everywhere. The moment something feels slightly uncomfortable, you can escape into your phone, into social media, into mindless scrolling. You can numb the tension instead of facing it. But every time you escape discomfort, you weaken your tolerance for it. And when real challenges show up, when life throws unexpected pressure at you, you feel overwhelmed because you never trained your mind to handle strain. Mentally tough people train daily, not just physically, but psychologically. They don't wait for life to test them. They test themselves. They choose the harder option on purpose. They finish the workout when it burns. They stay focused when distractions pull at them. They speak up even when their voice shakes. They understand that short-term discomfort creates long-term strength. You cannot grow in a space where everything feels easy. Easy maintains, hard transforms. But here's what's powerful. Discomfort loses its intimidation when you face it consistently. The first cold shower feels shocking. The 10th feels normal. The first time you speak in front of a crowd feels terrifying. The 10th feels manageable. The first time you push past your limits feels unbearable. The 10th time feels empowering. Exposure builds resilience. Your brain is adaptable. It adjusts to what you repeatedly experience. If you repeatedly choose comfort, it adapts to ease. If you repeatedly choose challenge, it adapts to pressure. And this is where mental toughness becomes a daily practice, not a personality trait. You're not born resilient. You build resilience. You build it by leaning into the very things you once avoided. There's a moment in every difficult task where your mind tries to bargain. It says, "This is enough. You've done enough. You can stop now." That voice is normal, but mentally tough individuals don't obey it automatically. They question it. They ask, is this truly my limit or just my comfort boundary? Most of the time, it's just the boundary. When you push slightly beyond that boundary, something shifts. You realize you had more in you. And that realization builds unshakable confidence. Not fake confidence, real confidence. The kind rooted in experience. Because now you have proof. Proof that you can handle discomfort. Proof that you can survive pressure. Proof that hard things don't destroy you. They develop you. And here's something important. Embracing discomfort doesn't mean being reckless. It means being intentional. It means identifying the areas where you've been playing small and deliberately stretching them. It means understanding that growth feels awkward before it feels powerful. The awkward phase is necessary. When you learn something new, you're clumsy at first. When you build a habit, it feels unnatural. When you step into leadership, you doubt yourself initially. But if you quit during the awkward stage, you never reach the mastery stage. Discomfort is the bridge between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. Avoiding it keeps you stagnant. Facing it moves you forward. And the beautiful thing about daily discomfort is that it strengthens every other area of your life. When you train yourself to tolerate physical discomfort, emotional discomfort becomes easier. When you handle difficult conversations, professional pressure feels lighter. When you willingly do hard things, unexpected challenges don't shock you as much. You develop a calmness under stress because you've been here before. Mental toughness isn't about eliminating fear. It's about acting despite it. It's about normalizing the uncomfortable so that growth becomes part of your lifestyle. Instead of asking, how can I make this easier? You start asking, how can this make me stronger? That shift changes everything. Instead of seeing challenges as threats, you see them as opportunities. Instead of running from pressure, you lean into it. Instead of avoiding failure, you use it as feedback. Every day gives you small chances to practice this. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Finish the task instead of postponing it. Have the honest conversation instead of avoiding it. Stay focused 10 minutes longer. Push one extra repetition. Read when you'd rather scroll. These small acts of voluntary discomfort compound into extraordinary resilience. Over time, your identity shifts. You no longer see yourself as someone who avoids difficulty. You see yourself as someone who handles it. And identity drives behavior. When you believe you are resilient, you act resilient. When you believe you are capable of enduring hardship, you endure it. Comfort feels good in the moment, but growth feels better in the long run. Comfort whispers, stay where you are. Growth whispers, there's more inside you. If you want to master your mind, you must stop negotiating with discomfort and start welcoming it as a teacher. Every challenge carries a lesson. Every struggle carries strength. Every uncomfortable step carries expansion. The life you want exists outside the comfort you cling to. So step forward when it feels heavy. Speak when it feels risky. Push when it feels hard. Stay when it feels easier to quit. Because on the other side of discomfort is the strongest version of you. Embrace the discomfort. It's shaping your power. There is a voice that speaks to you more than anyone else in this world. It speaks when you wake up in the morning. It speaks when you make a mistake. It speaks when you face a challenge. It speaks when you look in the mirror. That voice is your inner dialogue, and whether you realize it or not, it is shaping your entire life. The way you speak to yourself determines the way you see yourself. And the way you see yourself determines the way you show up in the world. If your inner dialogue is constantly negative, critical, and doubtful. You will hesitate even when opportunity is in front of you. If your self-talk is empowering, disciplined, and solution-focused, you will move forward even when obstacles appear. The external world may influence you, but the internal conversation defines you. Most people don't consciously control this voice. They let it run automatically, repeating old fears, past failures, and inherited beliefs. Maybe someone once told you that you weren't good enough. Maybe you failed at something years ago. You compared yourself to someone and felt behind. If those moments are not processed properly, they become scripts. And those scripts replay quietly in your mind. I'm not ready. I always mess things up. I'm not as talented as them. This probably won't work. At first, they sound like harmless thoughts, but repeated often enough, they become beliefs, and beliefs shape behavior. Mental toughness begins when you realize that not every thought deserves your agreement. Your mind generates thousands of thoughts every day. Some are useful, some are protective, some are completely irrational. The problem is not having negative thoughts. The problem is believing them without questioning them. When a challenge appears, your brain naturally scans for danger. It tries to protect you from embarrassment, failure, and pain. So it exaggerates risk. It magnifies doubt. It highlights worst-case scenarios. That's biology. But mental toughness is psychology. It's the ability to step back and say, just because I think it doesn't mean it's true. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. That distinction is powerful, because once you separate yourself from the automatic voice in your head, you gain control. Instead of reacting emotionally to every doubt, you can respond intentionally. When your mind says, you can't do this, you can ask, why not? When it says, you're going to fail, you can ask, based on what evidence? When it says, this is too hard, you can respond, hard doesn't mean impossible. This is not about blind positivity. It's about disciplined thinking. It's about replacing destructive patterns with constructive ones. Consider how you would speak to someone you care about. If a close friend made a mistake, would you tell them they're useless? If they felt nervous before an opportunity, would you tell them they should quit? Of course not. You would encourage them. You would remind them of their strengths. You would help them see possibility instead of limitation. Yet many people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to anyone else. Mental toughness requires self-respect in conversation. The words you use internally influence your physiology. Negative self-talk increases stress. It tightens your body. It narrows your focus. It makes challenges feel heavier. Constructive self-talk does the opposite. It opens possibility. It strengthens posture. It creates calm under pressure. Athletes understand this deeply. Before competition, they visualize success. They repeat affirming cues. They train their internal dialogue to reinforce confidence. They don't eliminate nerves, they reframe them. Instead of thinking, I'm scared, they think, I'm ready. Instead of thinking, I can't lose, they think, I will perform at my best. The language shifts the experience. And here's something even deeper. Your brain listens to what you repeatedly say. If you constantly label yourself as lazy, you begin to act lazily. If you call yourself disciplined, you start aligning with that identity. If you say you're resilient, you search for proof of resilience. Your mind looks for evidence to confirm your beliefs. So if you want to master your mind, you must intentionally choose the beliefs you reinforce. This doesn't mean ignoring weaknesses. It means addressing them constructively instead of destructively. Instead of saying, I'm terrible at this, say, I'm still learning. Instead of saying, I always fail, say, I'm improving with experience. Instead of saying, I'm not confident, say, I'm building confidence through action. Those subtle shifts matter. They keep you moving instead of freezing. Your inner dialogue also determines how you handle failure. When something goes wrong, do you attack yourself or analyze the situation? Do you label yourself as the problem? Or do you treat the mistake as feedback? Mentally tough individuals separate identity from outcome. A failure is an event, not a definition. A setback is a moment, not a label. If your internal voice says, see, you're not capable, you shrink. If your internal voice says, that didn't work, adjust and try again, you grow. The event is the same. The interpretation changes everything. And let's be clear, this is not easy at first. Negative thinking patterns can be deeply rooted. They can be tied to childhood experiences, social comparison, cultural pressure, or past trauma. But they are not permanent. The brain is adaptable. With repetition, new mental pathways form. Every time you interrupt a negative thought and replace it with a constructive one, you strengthen a new pattern. Every time you choose empowerment over self-criticism, you rewire your internal system. Over time, the new voice becomes louder than the old one. This is daily mental training. It happens in small moments. When you wake up tired and your mind says, stay in bed, you respond, get up, you have work to do. When you hesitate before a difficult task and your mind says, avoid it, you respond, face it. When you feel behind and comparison creeps in, you remind yourself, stay in your lane, focus on progress. These micro conversations shape macro results. Your life will always move in the direction of your dominant thoughts. If your internal dialogue is full of doubt, you will hesitate. If it is full of discipline, you will act. If it is focused on problems, you will feel stuck. If it is focused on solutions, you will find paths forward. Mastering your inner dialogue doesn't mean you never experience negative thoughts. It means you don't let them control you. It means you challenge them. It means you choose which ones to amplify and which ones to silence. And the more you practice, the stronger you become. Eventually, when pressure hits, your trained voice rises automatically. Instead of panic, there is steadiness. Instead of self-blame, there is analysis. Instead of quitting, there is persistence. That's mental toughness in action. Because when you control your inner dialogue, you control your emotional state. When you control your emotional state, you control your decisions. And when you control your decisions, you control your direction. Your mind is always listening. So speak to yourself with strength. Speak to yourself with discipline. Speak to yourself with belief. Because the words you repeat internally today are building the person you become tomorrow. Change the conversation within, and you change everything. Pain is something most people spend their lives trying to avoid. They avoid difficult situations, difficult conversations, difficult risks, because they don't want to feel discomfort, rejection, embarrassment, or failure. But here's the truth about mental tough. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the raw material of power. Every single person you admire has a story filled with struggle. Behind confidence, there was once insecurity. Behind success, there were setbacks. Behind strength, there was pressure. What separates those who rise from those who remain stuck is not the absence of pain. It's the decision to transform pain into fuel. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. You will experience disappointment. You will face rejection. You will make mistakes. You will lose opportunities. You will be criticized. That's part of being human. But what you do with those experiences, that's where mental toughness is built. When something painful happens, your mind immediately tries to interpret it. It asks, what does this mean? If your interpretation is, this proves I'm not good enough, pain weakens you. If your interpretation is, this is teaching me something, pain strengthens you. The event may be the same. The meaning changes everything. Think about failure. Most people see failure as evidence of limitation. They take it personally. They attach their identity to it. They say, I failed, therefore I am a failure. That single shift from an event to an identity destroys confidence. But mentally tough individuals see failure differently. They see it as information. They ask, what didn't work? What can I improve? What lesson is hidden here? Instead of shrinking, they adapt. Instead of quitting, they recalibrate. Failure stops being a wall and becomes a stepping stone. Rejection works the same way. Being told no hurts. Being overlooked stings. Being doubted can shake you. But rejection is not a verdict on your worth. It is a redirection, refinement, or reminder to grow. Some of the strongest people in the world were once underestimated. Some of the most successful individuals were once rejected multiple times. The difference is, they didn't internalize the rejection as proof of inadequacy. They used it as motivation. They said, I'll show myself what I'm capable of. Pain has energy, and energy can either destroy or drive you. When you experience heartbreak, you can let it close you off, or you can let it mature you emotionally. When you lose an opportunity, you can let it make you bitter, or you can let it sharpen your preparation. When someone criticizes you, you can let it break your confidence, or you can let it strengthen your standards. The same fire that burns can also forge steel. Mental toughness means choosing the second option. But let's be honest, this choice is not automatic. When pain hits, your first reaction might be emotional. You might feel anger, sadness, frustration, embarrassment. That's normal. Mental toughness does not mean you don't feel pain. It means you don't waste it. There's a powerful question you can ask yourself in moments of difficulty. How can this make me better? Not why is this happening to me, but what is this teaching me? That shift moves you from victim mindset to growth mindset. When you view pain as training instead of punishment, everything changes. You stop seeing challenges as attacks and start seeing them as preparation. Every hardship becomes mental conditioning. Every obstacle becomes character development. Pressure reveals weaknesses, but it also reveals strength. Maybe pain exposes impatience. Good, now you know what to work on. Maybe failure exposes poor preparation. Good, now you know where to improve. Maybe criticism exposes blind spots. Good, now you can refine your approach. Pain gives feedback, and feedback is powerful. The people who remain weak are not those who experience pain. It's those who run from it. They numb it with distraction. They deny it. They blame others for it. They complain about it. But avoidance never builds resilience. Facing pain builds resilience. When you sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, you build emotional strength. When you analyze mistakes instead of hiding them, you build intelligence. When you accept responsibility instead of making excuses, you build power. And over time, something incredible happens. You become less afraid of hardship because you've survived it before. You begin to trust yourself. You know that even if something goes wrong, you will handle it. Even if you fall, you will get back up. That confidence is not loud. It's steady. It's rooted in experience. Pain also deepens perspective. When everything is easy, growth is shallow. But when you struggle, you develop empathy. You develop patience. You develop gratitude. You appreciate progress more because you understand what it cost. Some of your greatest strengths will come from your darkest seasons. The discipline you built during a tough year, the resilience you developed after being knocked down, the clarity you gained after making mistakes. Those experiences shape you in ways comfort never could. And here's something powerful. When you turn pain into power, you inspire others to do the same. Your story becomes evidence that hardship is survivable. Your growth becomes proof. Had struggle has purpose. But the transformation only happens if you decide that pain will not define you. It will refine you. There's a difference. When pain defines you, you stay stuck in the narrative. When pain refines you, you evolve beyond it. Refinement requires reflection. It requires honesty. It requires asking hard questions about yourself. It requires taking ownership. That's not easy, but it is empowering. Because once you take responsibility for your response, you take back control. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control what you build from it. And sometimes, the very thing that hurt you becomes the foundation of your strength. The rejection pushes you to improve. The failure forces you to prepare better. The setback makes you disciplined. The criticism sharpens your focus. Pain becomes fuel. Instead of saying, this is the end, you say, this is the beginning of a stronger version of me. That mindset changes outcomes. It turns setbacks into setups. It turns adversity into advantage. It turns wounds into wisdom. Mental toughness is not about having a perfect path. It's about using imperfect experiences perfectly. It's about recognizing that growth is rarely comfortable. It's about understanding that pressure is part of the process. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Muscles grow through strain. Character develops through adversity. And so do you. The next time life hits hard, and it will, don't ask why it's happening. Ask how it can shape you. Don't shrink from the discomfort. Lean into the lesson. Don't waste the struggle. Extract the strength from it. Because when you learn to transform pain into power, nothing you go through is ever wasted. Use the pain. Let it build you, not break you. One of the greatest shifts you can make in your life, one of the most powerful upgrades to your mental toughness, is learning to focus only on what you can control. It sounds simple, almost obvious, but most people spend their energy in the exact opposite way. They stress over outcomes they can't dictate. They worry about opinions they can't manage. They replay situations they can't change. And in doing so, they drain the very power they actually have. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control other people's attitudes. You cannot control whether someone supports you or doubts you. You cannot control every obstacle that appears in your path. But you can control your effort. You can control your preparation. You can control your mindset. You can control your response. And that is more than enough. When you focus on what you cannot control, you feel helpless. When you focus on what you can control, you feel powerful. That shift alone can transform anxiety into action. Think about how often people get stuck worrying about results. What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if this doesn't work? Those questions are centered around outcomes. And outcomes are influenced by many variables: timing, market conditions, other people's decisions, unexpected events. You can influence outcomes, but you cannot guarantee them. What you can guarantee is your input. You can guarantee that you will show up prepared. You can guarantee that you will give your best effort. You can guarantee that you will respond with discipline instead of emotion. When you anchor your confidence in effort rather than outcome, fear loses its grip. Mental toughness is not about controlling the world. It's about controlling yourself within the world. Let's say you're working toward a goal and progress feels slow. It's easy to get frustrated, easy to compare yourself to others, easy to feel behind. But comparison is external. It's focused on factors outside your control. Other people's timelines, advantages, circumstances. The moment you shift your focus back to your own actions, everything changes. Ask yourself, did I do my best today? Did I stay disciplined? Did I improve even slightly? Those are controllable metrics. And when you consistently win the controllable battles, the uncontrollable outcomes begin to align over time. Another area where this principle becomes powerful is in dealing with other people. You cannot control how someone treats you. You cannot control whether they understand your vision. You cannot control whether they criticize or support you. Trying to control others only creates frustration. But you can control how you respond. You can choose patience instead of anger. You can choose composure instead of reaction. You can choose silence instead of argument. Your response, SC, is your power. Most conflicts escalate because people try to control each other instead of controlling themselves. Mental toughness means pausing before reacting. It means recognizing that someone else's negativity does not require your participation. It means understanding that maintaining your peace is more valuable than winning an argument. When you master your reactions, you master your environment. This also applies to adversity. Life will throw situations at you that you didn't plan for. Unexpected setbacks, sudden changes, unfair circumstances. You can spend weeks asking, why did this happen? Or you can ask, what can I do now? The first question keeps you stuck. The second question moves you forward. Control what you can, adapt to what you can't. Resilience is built in that space between stimulus and response. Something happens. That's stimulus. How you interpret and react, that's response. In that gap lies your freedom. If your automatic response is panic, you amplify problems. If your trained response is focus, you create solutions. You might not control the storm, but you control how you sail the ship. And here's the powerful truth. The more you practice controlling the small things, the stronger you become in handling the big things. Control your morning routine. Control your work ethic. Control your health habits. Control your focus. These daily disciplines create stability. And stability creates confidence. When chaos appears, you don't fall apart because you're anchored in what you can control. Many people waste years waiting for perfect conditions. They say, I'll start when things settle down. I'll commit when I feel more certain. I'll take action when I have guarantees. But certainty is rarely guaranteed. Conditions are rarely perfect. Waiting for control over everything means never starting anything. Start with what's in your hands. If you want to improve financially, control your spending and learning. If you want to improve physically, control your nutrition and movement. If you want to improve mentally, control your thoughts and inputs. The circle of control is always smaller than the circle of concern. But growth happens inside that smaller circle. And here's something important. Letting go of what you cannot control is not weakness, it's wisdom. It frees mental energy. It reduces unnecessary stress. It allows you to invest your focus where it actually makes a difference. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with rocks labeled other people's opinions, past mistakes, future uncertainties. The weight slows you down. But the moment you drop those rocks and carry only what you can influence, your actions, your effort, your attitude, you move faster and lighter. Clarity replaces confusion. There's a calmness that comes from this mindset. When something unexpected happens, instead of spiraling into frustration, you ask, what part of this is within my control? Sometimes the answer is small, but even a small action creates momentum. You may not control whether you win, but you control how hard you compete. You may not control whether someone stays, but you control how you show up in the relationship. You may not control every opportunity, but you control your readiness when one appears, and readiness meets opportunity. Over time, this focus builds inner strength. You stop feeling like life is happening to you and start realizing you are actively shaping your experience. You become proactive instead of reactive. That shift is empowering because when you accept that you control your effort, you eliminate excuses. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for validation. You stop surrendering your power to things outside your influence. You take ownership, and ownership is the foundation of mental toughness. It's easy to complain about traffic, harder to leave earlier. It's easy to criticize the system, harder to improve yourself within it. It's easy to blame luck, harder to increase your skill. But hard choices build strong minds. When you consistently choose to act within your control, your confidence grows. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. Eventually something shifts inside you. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by uncertainty, you feel focused on execution. Instead of fearing unpredictability, you trust your adaptability. Instead of being distracted by noise, you concentrate on effort. And that's when progress accelerates. Because energy flows where focus goes. If your focus is scattered across uncontrollable worries, your energy is diluted. If your focus is concentrated on actionable steps, your energy becomes powerful. Master the controllables. Release the rest. That's not just strategy, that's freedom. At the end of the day, you may not control the outcome, but if you controlled your attitude, your effort, and your response, you can sleep with peace. You did your part. And when you repeatedly do your part, results compound. Focus on what you can control and watch your power expand. We live in a world that rewards speed, instant messages, instant food, instant entertainment, instant validation. Everything is designed to give you what you want right now. And because of that, one of the rarest and most powerful traits you can develop is the ability to delay gratification. Mental toughness is not just about pushing through pain. It's about saying no to what feels good in the moment so you can say yes to something greater in the future. That's not easy. Your brain is wired to seek pleasure and avoid discomfort. It wants the reward now. It wants the shortcut. It wants the easier option. When you're tired, it wants rest. When you're bored, it wants stimulation. When you're stressed, it wants relief. That's natural. But if you allow those impulses to control your decisions, you sacrifice long-term success for short-term comfort. Delaying gratification means resisting that impulse. It means studying when others are scrolling. It means saving money when others are spending. It means training when others are relaxing. It means building when others are consuming. And at first, it feels unfair. It feels like you're missing out. It feels like you're sacrificing while everyone else is enjoying the moment. But what most people don't realize is that every decision carries a cost. The pleasure now has a price later. The discipline now has a reward later. You get to choose which price you pay. If you choose comfort now, you may pay with regret later. If you choose discipline now, you may enjoy freedom later. If you choose distraction now, you may face limitation later. If you choose focus now, you may experience opportunity later. Mental toughness is the ability to see beyond the present moment. It's the ability to ask yourself, what will this decision mean for me 6 months from now? 1 year from now? 5 years from now? Most people make decisions based on how they feel today. Mentally tough individuals make decisions based on who they want to become tomorrow. That requires vision. Without a clear vision of your future, it's almost impossible to delay gratification. If you don't know where you're going, the immediate reward will always seem more attractive. But when you have a goal that excites you, when you have a standard you refuse to compromise, the short-term pleasure loses its power because you're playing a longer game. Think about an athlete preparing for competition. They don't skip training for temporary pleasure. They don't sacrifice preparation for momentary indulgence. They understand that every disciplined choice is an investment, and investments take time to grow. The same principle applies to your life. Every time you choose to work on your craft instead of wasting time, you're investing. Every time you choose healthy habits instead of harmful ones, you're investing. Every time you choose learning over laziness, you're investing. The returns may not show immediately. That's the hard part. Delayed gratification requires patience. It requires faith in the process. It requires trusting that the small, consistent actions you take today will compound into something powerful tomorrow. And that's where most people quit. They want visible results quickly. They want validation early. They want progress to be obvious. When it's not, they get discouraged. They revert to comfort. They say, what's the point? But growth is of 10 invisible before it becomes undeniable. Seeds grow underground before they break through the surface. Your discipline works the same way. When you consistently choose long-term goals over short-term pleasure, you build something deeper than results. You build character. You build self-control. You build integrity with yourself. You prove that your future matters more than your impulses. And self-control is power. If you can control your impulses, you can control your direction. If you can control your direction, you can shape your destiny. But let's be honest, there will be moments when temptation feels strong, when everyone around you seems to be taking it easy, when the shortcut looks appealing, when the hard path feels lonely. That's when mental toughness matters most. In those moments, remind yourself why you started. Remind yourself of the version of you that you're building. Remind yourself that temporary comfort often leads to permanent frustration. Discipline feels heavy in the moment. Regret feels heavier over time. There is a unique satisfaction that comes from delayed gratification. It's deeper than instant pleasure. It's the satisfaction of knowing you honored your commitment. It's the pride of earning your progress. It's the confidence that comes from consistency. When you delay gratification, you're not denying yourself joy. You're redefining it. Instead of finding joy in quick pleasure, you find joy in progress. Instead of seeking dopamine from distraction, you gain fulfillment from achievement. Instead of chasing validation, you build competence. That shift changes your entire relationship with success. You stop asking, how fast can I get to his? And start asking, how well can I build this? You stop chasing easy wins and start constructing lasting foundations. You understand that anything built too quickly can collapse just as fast. Strong foundations take time. And the truth is, when you master delayed gratification in one area of your life, it spreads into others. Financial discipline strengthens professional growth. Physical discipline improves mental clarity. Emotional discipline stabilizes relationships. Everything becomes interconnected. You become someone who can be trusted, with responsibility, with opportunity, with leadership, because you've proven you can control yourself. That's rare. In a world addicted to immediacy, patience stands out. In a culture driven by impulse, restraint becomes powerful. When others are distracted by short-term rewards, you remain focused on long-term impact. And over time, the gap widens. While others are stuck in cycles of starting and stopping, you are steadily progressing. While others chase trends, you build substance. While others burn out from inconsistency, you gain momentum from discipline. It won't always feel glamorous. It won't always feel exciting. There will be days when your progress feels slow. But remember, slow progress is still progress. And consistency beats intensity when intensity doesn't last. Delayed gratification is not about suffering forever. It's about strategic sacrifice. It's about understanding that some pleasures are sweeter when they are earned. Some victories are more meaningful when they are built patiently. And here's the powerful part. Eventually, the very discipline that felt like sacrifice becomes your advantage. The skills you built quietly become visible. The habits you formed privately produce public results. The restraint you practice daily turns into freedom others wish they had. Because while they chose comfort, you chose construction. While they chose now, you chose next. And one day, when the results arrive, when the opportunities open, when the success becomes tangible, you'll realize something important. The wait wasn't punishment. The discipline wasn't loss. It was preparation. You didn't delay gratification to suffer. You delayed it to succeed. Sacrifice today so your future can thank you tomorrow. Stress is not a sign that you're failing. Pressure is not proof that you're incapable. Adversity is not evidence that you're on the wrong path. In fact, the presence of pressure often means you're stretching into something bigger than your comfort zone. And if you want to master your mind and your life, you must learn how to build emotional resilience. The ability to stay steady when everything around you feels unstable. Life will test you, not once, not twice, repeatedly. There will be moments when plans fall apart. Moments when people disappoint you. Moments when results don't match your effort. Moments when everything feels heavier than expected. Emotional resilience is what determines whether those moments break you or build you. Most people think resilience means not feeling anything. They think being strong means being emotionless. That's not strength. That's suppression. Real resilience is feeling everything and still choosing wisely. It's acknowledging frustration without exploding. It's recognizing sadness without surrendering. It's experiencing fear without freezing. Emotions are natural. Reactions are chosen. When pressure hits, your nervous system activates. Your heart rate increases. Your thoughts speed up. Your body prepares for threat. That's biology. But mental toughness is the ability to pause in that reaction and respond intentionally. Instead of panicking, you breathe. Instead of reacting impulsively, you reflect. Instead of assuming the worst, you analyze. That pause, that small space between what happens and how you respond, is where resilience lives. Emotional resilience is not built during calm seasons. It's built during storms. You don't discover your stability when everything is going well. You discover it when things go wrong, and the way you handle small stresses determines how you'll handle big ones. If every minor inconvenience ruins your mood, major adversity will overwhelm you. But if you train yourself to remain composed during daily frustrations, traffic, delays, criticism, unexpected changes, you strengthen your emotional muscles. Think of resilience like a shock absorber. The bumps in the road don't disappear, but they don't throw you off course either. You absorb the impact without losing direction. One of the most powerful aspects of emotional resilience is perspective. When something negative happens, your mind immediately tries to define it. It says, "This is terrible, this shouldn't be happening, this always happens to me." But those interpretations amplify stress. Resilient individuals reframe the situation. Instead of saying, "This is a disaster," they say, "This is a challenge." Instead of saying, "Why me?" they say, "What now?" Instead of saying, "I can't handle this," they say, "I'll handle this step by step." The event may remain difficult, but the interpretation reduces emotional chaos. Perspective reminds you that most problems are temporary, most setbacks are solvable, most stress is situational, not permanent. When you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the intensity often decreases. Another key part of emotional resilience is self-regulation. This means managing your emotional state instead of letting it control your behavior. It doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means understanding them. If you feel angry, ask why. If you feel anxious, identify the trigger. If you feel overwhelmed, break the problem into smaller pieces. When you name an emotion, you reduce its power. When you understand it, you can guide it. Resilient people don't pretend everything is fine. They process what they feel, but they don't let those feelings dictate destructive actions. They don't send the angry message. They don't quit in frustration. They don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. They wait, they breathe, they think. That restraint is strength. Emotional resilience also requires acceptance, not passive resignation, but active acceptance. Accepting that life includes uncertainty. Accepting that you cannot control everything. Accepting that discomfort is part of growth. When you resist reality, you add suffering to stress. When you accept reality, you free up energy to act. Acceptance sounds like this: "I don't like this situation, but it's here. Now what can I do?" That mindset shifts you from emotional reaction to strategic response. And here, something powerful. Resilience grows every time you survive something you once thought you couldn't handle. Remember a time when you were overwhelmed, a time when you thought you wouldn't recover, a time when the pressure felt unbearable, and yet you're still here. You adapted, you adjusted, you endured. That's evidence. Every hardship you've survived is proof of your capacity. The problem is, many people forget their own resilience. They focus on the stress of the present and ignore the strength of their past. Resilient individuals remind themselves, "I've handled difficult things before. I can handle this too." That internal reminder creates stability. Emotional resilience also protects your relationships. When you're resilient, you don't project your stress onto others. You don't lash out because you're overwhelmed. You communicate instead of exploding. You listen instead of assuming. That steadiness builds trust. And trust builds influence. In leadership, in family, in friendship. People are drawn to those who remain calm under pressure. Not because they're perfect, but because they're grounded. They create safety in chaos. Resilience makes you that person. But building it requires intentional practice. It requires choosing not to overreact. It requires limiting negative inputs that increase anxiety. It requires prioritizing rest, health, and clarity. A tired mind reacts more emotionally. A healthy mind responds more rationally. Resilience is not just mental, it's physical. Sleep matters. Nutrition matters. Movement matters. When your body is balanced, your emotions are easier to manage. And perhaps most importantly, resilience grows when you stop taking everything personally. Not every criticism is an attack. Not every setback is a reflection of your worth. Not every disagreement is disrespect. Sometimes things are just circumstances. When you detach your identity from every outcome, you reduce emotional volatility, you become steady. And steadiness is powerful, because life will continue to test you. There will be seasons of uncertainty. There will be moments of disappointment. But if you've built emotional resilience, those moments won't define you. They won't derail you. They won't destroy your confidence. They'll strengthen it. Over time, Something shifts inside you. Presso. No longer feels like a threat. It feels like training. Stress no longer feels like a signal to quit. It feels like a signal to focus. Adversity no longer feels unfair. It feels like part of the process. You become less reactive, more intentional, less fragile, more grounded. And that's when you truly start mastering your mind. Because emotional resilience means your peace is not dependent on perfect conditions. Your stability is not dependent on constant success. Your confidence is not dependent on approval. It comes from within. You can't stop storms from forming, but you can become strong enough to stand in them without shaking. Stay calm in the chaos. That's real stress.